in transition. I don't get into the politics of it. I don't get into the debatable side of it. It's not my place to do any of that. I will say this. I think change is good. I think there needs to be a little bit of change. I feel the NRA could be better aligned with the administration. I feel the NRA could do a better job aligning itself. And some people stepped down and some people moved around. I think that there will be change. I'm going to choose my words carefully. There will continue to be change. And that's not a bad thing, guys. That's not a bad thing. So, can you not hear me on YouTube? Is that an issue? You should be able to hear me on YouTube. I hope that you can. But the change is going to be necessary. I don't want to get into who should go, who shouldn't go, why somebody shouldn't go, why somebody should go. It's not my place. I'm hoping that you are hearing me on YouTube. I don't know that you are. But here's the deal, guys. It's the organization. You support the organization. You support, the mission, the overall mission. And I think it's important to understand that it's a known problem and that the problem will get rectified and will get fixed. If you want to be eligible for the Taurus, you have to head over to my last post. So my trip out to the NRA was spent most of the time talking with the vendors, understanding where business was at, how business was doing, how companies were doing, and how companies were performing. And I think that the firearms industry and the defense industry in general is ripe for a drastic change. I think we're going to continue to see companies fall off the map, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of small businesses suffer. The AR market is very down. There's reasons for that. There is a groundswell, and we've seen this even in the fitness industry, a huge slowing down of shows. Shows aren't performing what they once were. They're not on the level that they once were. And there's a lot of change in the organization. And I think that the change has to come. There's no doubt. So Oliver North stepped down, and I'm sure there'll be other announcements of people stepping down and people turning over. And I think that's just going to continue to be more of the same. So Knox says, like I tell people that bash the NRA, everything has issues, but we're personally doing help to a community. I think what has to change primarily is it needs to stop being about money and money being spent unnecessarily. Now, I'm not there scrutinizing the books. I don't know all the ins and outs in particulars, but I think change has to come on some regard and on some level for a lot of that stuff. I will tell you this. The companies were phenomenally gracious. Okay? I spent time at the Action Targets event, talked with them. I went over to the ILA event, which is the political side, and spent a lot of time with not just my Breakthrough Clean family, with Ballistic Advantage, with several of the brands, Hogue, Taurus, Canic, and got a good feeling for where things were and where they're going. And I couldn't be more grateful. I did get a chance to spend some time with some folks that do have a say, and that was interesting. ETS in the house. All right, Knox. Yep. They are a phenomenal brand, and thank you for supporting them, Knox. And Knox, I'm sorry I didn't make it through. So without naming names and without getting into it, I think change is good. I think some change in that space of the industry over the long term. It's going to be slow. It's not going to be as fast as everybody wants. And this isn't political. This isn't anything other than it's going to be nice to see some fresh faces. I think a freshening up is in order for that side of the house, and it needs to get aligned with the political side. Their agendas need to align, and I don't think that they have for a while. And now's the time to get it right before we go into an election cycle. If anyone has questions about the NRA show, you guys know my feelings on it. I feel it's a better show. It's more intimate. It's easier to walk around. I had the luxury of getting to bump into a lot of friends and spend some time with them. And really, I enjoyed a lot of the back and forth and the camaraderie and everything with the industry. I learned a few things along the way. I learned that the industry is very, very much more cyclical than I had ever given it credit for. Much more cyclical than I could even possibly understand. There's almost been a calming down that has gone on the last few weeks. And the calming comes from some companies kind of bleeding off and falling down and circling the drain, and allowing the firearms industry and allowing the defense industry to kind of boil off some of the fat. Now, nobody hates to see small businesses, family-owned businesses, people's blood, sweat, and tears lose money or no longer be able to participate in this great industry. But the reality is sometimes, too, that things get too bloated and things get too fat, and it's a lot of people doing the same thing. And I feel that this will all be for the better over time, but it's going to take time to get there. It's going to keep taking time. I think as time goes on and things kind of level off, it's going to be better for the industry, and it's going to be better for the players that stick around. Everything's at its best when there's balance. And there has to be balance in all things. And I'm not trying to sound like Luke Skywalker here, but there has to be balance. And with balance, other things will fall into place. So my hope is that this creates a good amount of balance throughout the industry. I also want to add on that I have a great product over at Deadfoot Arms. Folding AR, that was very cool. So if you guys take a minute, thank Deadfoot Arms. They had a fantastic product. I thought that was really cool. Bending Kydex. It's a Dago. So with that being said, if anyone has any questions about the NRA, now's the time. As you guys know, I don't get heavy into the politics of it. I don't have political opinions on it, on who should do what, but feel free to ask any questions that you have about the event, about the NRA, about the show, and I'll do my best to answer them as fast as I can or in the best manner that I can. Obviously, I don't like to get too deep into the sauce of it all, but you know, I'll do my best to kind of give you guys as straightforward an answer as I can. Didn't see a lot of new product releases. There were some. I really did like the Deadfoot Arms product, the folding AR. I enjoyed seeing ETS, I believe, expanded its line of reloaders. Those were very cool. It was a very successful trip for business. We'll have a whole slew of new sponsors. When we get down to Miami, we'll have a whole slew of stuff to get into that I think will be very cool. I had great meetings with all the different brands. We'll get into that another time. And met with a lot of the folks. Is the NRA in a vulnerable state that would allow certain laws to slip through that affect the 2A community for years to come? I think we're always susceptible to that risk of laws, Bishaw, slipping through the cracks. I think that due to systemic risk stemming from politics and politics consistently changing, that we're always at risk. The one thing we do have in our back pocket is we will have never nominated, other than Judge Washington, more of the judges that we want to have in there with conservative values to protect our rights. than we've ever had before under this president. So that's a huge plus. I think it's all pushing towards the end goal, and the end goal is universal concealed carry. I think universal concealed carry has always been the main goal. It's always been the biggest part of the fight, and it's important. Whether or not that happens, whether or not it comes to that, whether or not we get there is another story. But I hope that we do. I think the end game is that. I really need to get over to ETS. Pretty sad. I'm in the same town and I've not checked out their operation. Knox, you should. There's great folks there. I actually spent a few minutes with the crew. Went over there with Dawn and a few people, and it was it's a great crew of people, great crew of folks. Awesome to spend time with them. They've always been exceptionally gracious, and their marketing team is bar none phenomenal. I like to be able to build or own an AR platform in this dumpster state. Dago, you might have to move. That's the reality. Or get over to New Hampshire and pick up some stuff. So that's the real reality. Massachusetts is very unique. Reciprocity, Union Electricman. Reciprocity is another term for universal concealed carry, or what we would call national reciprocity, or national concealed carry. So it's really important, and I think it's a necessary evil. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody who's tagged multiple companies, multiple brands, people, everything. You guys have been phenomenal supporters. Continue to keep supporting. I know that I'm on the road and I'm trying to do these streams and I'm trying to do these lives. I will say this, my top 3 to 5 booths, everybody knows I love top 5s. My top 3 to 5 booths that I passed by, that I saw, that I really liked what they were doing, I'm going to go in no special order. I really loved what Deadfoot Arms is doing with the folding AR. I thought that was super cool. It's very, very cool. Interesting. You know? What's up, Semi-Auto Kid? Number 2, I love Vertex's new line of bags. They just launched a new line. It's really cool. Very cool. Another deal that I liked was I went over to Breakthrough, and of course I'm a little bit of a homer. Breakthrough has some really cool pouches and some really cool range cleaning stuff, and they developed carbon fiber rod system. That's really cool. I enjoyed that. I visited Kenzies Optics. They've really done an awesome job expanding their line of optics and what they're carrying, and I like to see that. I really like to see that. That was fun to see. Lots of different options, lots of variations, and they're really becoming a major player to where they can get you guys pricing and price points that are a home run. I liked the new Canic. The new Canic is very nice. Super cool product. Finally, and last but certainly not the least of all things, I got a chance, and everybody knows my love of lever action, to visit Henry. And I love some of the Henrys that they're cranking out. I love lever action rifles. So if you haven't checked out Henry in a while, check them out. As far as do I think everybody should take a training course, I believe now in most states that in order to get a permit, you have to take a training course. I believe. In most states, not all. So let me adjust that thinking. It's a little bit of a house rule with Henry could be added. It's a little bit of a house rule, but I know in the town that I lived in Mass, they wanted to see you take a training course before they would sign off on it. I have my thoughts on this on concealed carry permits. I think if universal carry was to be put in place, it would be wise to institute some level of training and some level of ongoing training. But I'm also a big proponent of training. It's something I'm passionate about, whether that's once every 3 years, whether that's once every 5 years or once every 2. Perfect. I'm good with that. That's my commitment. Do I think everybody should be able to run a real-world tactical course? Not necessarily. It's a different animal. It's next level. But I think everybody should be able to produce a document that says you took some level of hunter's certification, hunter's qualification, whatever it is. Any of it. So, with that being said, I hope everybody understands and I'm clear about where I stand on the NRA and the politics of it and everything. I'm a huge supporter of the cause, but I am glad to see change coming. And I'm glad to see some changes beginning to take place. It's going to be slow. It's going to take time. And it will be for the better in the long run. Florida is allowing teachers to carry in schools. I think that's a great idea, a good move in my book to protect our kids by any means. That's certainly a step in the right direction. I will say this, I don't believe in gun-free zones, if that answers that question. But I also believe that not every teacher carrying a gun is prepared for an active shooter incident. I think that they should have, if a teacher is going to carry, the township or the county should implement some level of active shooter training. And that, I'm sure that answers the question that you just asked, American Merit. And I'm going to word it better than you did, because you said as long as teachers aren't dipshits. I think that they should implement, at least at a county level, a basic active shooter training. Okay? And they should offer proper safety precautions. When a group starts to replicate the people they are battling, that's a problem. Yeah, I think there's a lot of problems there. I think the biggest one, active carry, is the alignment. There's no better time than the NRA being aligned with the presidency than right now, than the executive branch. And it needs to get aligned. There needs to be alignments. And I think that's something that the Trump administration is pushing for. I think that's something everybody's pushing for. There needs to be alignments. And it's been a while since they've been aligned. And I think they're trying to get it right. But it's a very bureaucratic entity. So it has to boil off some of the bureaucracy. And I think it needs fresh faces. I think it needs fresh opinions. I think it needs fresh everything. With all that being said, I think it's a huge step in the right direction. So my thoughts on NRA is simple. It was a very good show, very consistent show. A lot of activity, a lot of people walking around asking the right questions, very steady traffic. I wouldn't say it was high traffic. I wouldn't say it was low. It was very steady traffic. At a few points you couldn't walk through the hallways, and it's a big show. So it had some activity. Thank you for tapping hearts, and thank you for sharing. And if you want to share this, tap the paper airplane at the bottom and share it out there. So you're seeing that more and more, Chuck. Chuck's saying his son's church works with the police department and does active shooter training on campus. That's important. Depending on how big the show gets, will you have a booth at NRA and SHOT Show events? I had multiple booths, multiple brands at this show. I tend to have more at SHOT, but I'm going to have a major announcement about me